لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله ما لنا رب سواه.
Salam guys, it's nice to meet all of you. I'm Fatima Fahis. I'm a dermatologist in Michigan, and I'm also the owner of Dermy Doc Box. Thank you for inviting me today to talk to you a little bit about entrepreneurship in medicine. I will say that this is all pretty new to me too, which is exciting because you can learn from my mistakes. And today is really just about giving you guys a little insight into maybe something not so traditional. You know, a lot of medicine is very step by step. We know exactly the next step for us. We are just trying to get to the next phase of our training. And sometimes it's good to take a pause and think about what else could you use your skill set for, and what else could you do with your passions and interests. So I hope this is a little interactive for you guys. I am totally okay with you raising your hands and interrupting, or we'll also save time for questions at the end, inshallah. All right, so a little bit about me. First and foremost, I am a wife and a mom, and my husband and kids are in the auditorium today. We'll see how long they last, so brave with us all as they eat all the snacks, even though we're not supposed to be eating in here. I'm also a dermatologist. I have been practicing here in Southeast Michigan. I work at Dermatology Specialists and Hamzavi Dermatology. You guys will hear from Dr. Hamzavi himself today, who is a wonderful mentor and friend and also my boss. And I also consider myself an artist and creative. Something to know about me and my path to medicine is I actually was always interested in pursuing a degree in art. I was presented with the opportunity in undergrad to join the MedStart program at Wayne State University, which was a program that selected 15 students, gave them a full ride scholarship, and then we were guaranteed a seat into the medical school at Wayne State after undergrad. So when I got into that program, which I honestly applied to on a whim, I thought, okay, well, I think this is my calling. I was curious about medicine, and perhaps this is something I need to pursue or look into further. But in undergrad, it was really important for me to keep that artistic side and that creative side. So in addition to doing the normal pre-med stuff like majoring in biology, I minored in art. I would finish my, pre-med classes and go to my studio art classes, which were like 3-hour-long painting sessions. And it was a really nice balance for me to find, some comfort in the process of being a pre-med. And throughout medical school too, I found ways to incorporate my interest in art. I actually had like a little side hustle in med school. I would sell handmade wreaths that I made and sold them on Etsy. So I guess you could say I always had a little bit of an entrepreneurship side to me. Once residency finished, there was just this itch that I had and this idea about creating a subscription box for quality skincare that a dermatologist would recommend. As somebody who is active on social media, I just saw a lot of stuff that was actually incorrect. Brands making marketing claims that aren't necessarily true. People in my DMs asking me if a product is good or not, and I knew that I could provide a service to help people sift through the overwhelming amount of information online, on social media, in the beauty aisles, and so that's how Dermy Doc Box was born. So I'm going to kind of give you a little bit into the backstory of Dermy Doc Box. First of all, I feel kind of like an imposter up here because the person that runs Dermy Doc Box with me is my husband. So he should actually be up here with me because he's a lot of the brains of the operation and we work alongside each other. And one thing that I always encourage people to think about when choosing a spouse is also choosing a life partner, somebody who is going to be supportive of your dreams, somebody who is going to encourage you, because when I first had this idea and when I first discussed it with Hassan, I was the one who was very doubtful of myself, and he was the one who pushed me to take this a step further, to look into this more, and ultimately my success is his success and vice versa. So choosing a life partner is a big deal, and I know we're not talking about that today, but he deserves a lot of recognition too. Okay, so this is Dermy Doc Box. Our box, like I said, was born out of the idea of helping people find quality skincare without having to search for it in the beauty aisles, read reviews, figure out what's good and bad, and waste money. We're a quarterly subscription box, so we basically curate a box every season of products that I love, that I think are helpful for the season. And in addition to that, as an expert, as a dermatologist, I include my tips and tricks, explanations, ingredient deep dives, etc., to really help people understand the products that they're getting. Before Dermy Doc Box, I was an avid beauty subscription box subscriber. And I remember always feeling disappointed with the products, small sample sizes, confusing, why are they doing these things together? And as I advanced in my training, I realized that there were a lot of gaps in this space that I knew I could fill. So, you know, the beginning, we're going to talk a little bit about the box, but I also want to help you guys who might be sitting on an idea or something that you're wondering if you could potentially pursue, and maybe give you a little bit of insight of how to do that. So this is my living room, and this was how we started the box. We cleared out our living room. We literally were ordering products to the house. The UPS driver hated us. He was literally always in our driveway, and Hassan and I would brainstorm about the box after our kids would go to bed at nighttime. So that was kind of like our time to sit down, think about our ideas, put things on paper, and start to really churn things into a reality. Obviously now, thankfully, we are not in our house anymore fulfilling boxes, but as you can see, it was literal chaos, and we had no idea what we were doing. We over-ordered stuff, we under-ordered stuff, we had issues with shipping, we had to figure out how to get all these boxes out of our house to the USPS facilities. We rented a U-Haul once. It was just chaos. So a lot of what we did was just learning on the fly. And as you guys know, in medicine, we're like handed all of our information, right? We know, like, okay, I have to learn about this. I'm in this class or pathophysiology of this system. And so it's very cookie cutter. We know exactly what we're doing and what to expect. And in business and entrepreneurship, there's so much out there that it's almost overwhelming to know where or how to start. This is Hassan and I after we finished fulfilling hundreds of our first inaugural box. We weren't expecting to sell out, but we did. We kind of started slow to see if there was going to be an interest, and we actually couldn't handle the amount of people that were interested. And that's when we knew we were onto something, and we were really answering a question or a need or a desire that people had to optimize their skincare. So enough about the box. Let's kind of chat now into where you guys can potentially take an idea that you're sitting on, or something that you're curious about, and how you can hopefully manifest it into a reality. So I'm going to give you a little bit of tips and tricks, things that we've learned along the way, and hopefully that kind of helps you start to brainstorm what you could do a little further. So first thing is, where do you start? Put it on paper. If you're sitting on something, if you're wondering about something, put it down on paper, or in my case, I had like a blank document on my desktop, and I just titled it The Box. And I just put down all the things I was thinking about, the ideas I had, what could it look like, what sort of question was I answering, and really the big thing to think about is, what problem are you solving? Because if you're just recreating something that someone's already done, how are you doing it differently? So you have to ask yourself, what problem am I actually solving? Or if you see something already that you like, take a look and think, how could this be done a little bit better? The next thing is to tell people, obviously, that you trust, whether that's family or friends, but get honest feedback. And this was hard for me because I was also met with a lot of doubt or questions, but I realized that those were the types of things that made me think about other parts of the business that I hadn't considered. You know, how would you target people? What is the age range you're looking to target? What type of products are you going to be putting? How often are you going to be selling them? Lots of questions that this little idea in my head I hadn't necessarily thought through. So talking to people you trust and also being open to their feedback or thoughts on it is very important. And this is probably the hardest part, because when you are an entrepreneur or you have an idea, you potentially might struggle with the fact that somebody might tell you they don't think it's a good idea or they don't think it's going to work. And you know, it's an opportunity for you to, yes, prove people wrong, but also to actually take feedback and think about how you could do it a little better. Okay, do your research. So what's already out there? For us with The Box, we did a deep dive into a lot of websites and what they were currently offering. We looked at their website layouts, we looked at their offerings, how often, their price model, and then we also looked at their reviews. And this is a really easy thing, especially if you're potentially taking a spin-off of something that's already out there. Go read reviews or read or listen to people's feedback of why they don't like what's currently available. And a lot of people would say about other boxes, I don't like that these are all sample products. I don't actually get to know if the product works for me. I don't know how to use the products. I don't understand these ingredients and what to mix or what to apply. And so that was where we realized we could solve this problem and clarify this with expert opinion or tips. And that's kind of the third part of it, which is how can you make it better? So all of this stuff was the groundwork before we even launched The Box. This was just us at nighttime sitting down, reflecting on these ideas and thinking about how could we clarify our mission moving forward and what else we could do. So I would encourage you to do that part. The next is making time to learn a new skill. So again, medicine is tough, and you don't have to tell me about finding time for stuff, because you can see I'm using Hassan as a babysitter right now while we're also here and trying to have a family day. So time is limited always, especially in medicine, especially in training. But if you tell yourself, I'm just gonna wait, I'm gonna wait till I'm done with med school, I'm gonna wait till I'm done with residency, I'm gonna wait till I'm in attending, you're not gonna do it. So make time to learn these skills, even if it means short snippets of time. So for me, that was through podcasts. On my drive to and from work, I was listening to Subscription Box podcasts. Totally random, but I learned so much on those drives. I was sitting in traffic anyways, and I was able to absorb all this information from experts who were already doing it really well. We also attended a Subscription Box conference, which was totally out of our comfort zone and nothing like this. And it was good because we were able to identify so many leaders in the field and potential mentors, which we now work with. So it's hard to put yourself out there, especially when you don't feel like it's your niche or it's not your people, right? We're all used to being around people in medicine. And so it's weird to be in a space where nobody else was. But you'd be surprised how many people are willing to connect with you and learn and hear your ideas. So use your downtime to attend a conference or to listen to podcasts about, the specific area you're interested in. Because at the end of the day, med students or people in medicine are not your average person. You are smart. You are able to apply yourself. You've gotten here thus far, right? So you know a lot, and you can teach yourself a lot too. So don't wait for somebody to tell you how to do something or teach you which way to go. You are probably very capable of learning on your own. You just have to put in the time to do it. So the logistics. This is the back end of a business, and these are things that unfortunately were not taught in medical school. And I would say this is the hardest part about a business when you are coming from a medical standpoint. But there are things you have to think about, like, do I need an accountant? Should I be making my business bank account? What type of LLC should I be forming? Do I need a mission statement? How am I going to get organized with my finances? Hassan did have a lot of this background that he was able to teach me in. He's a pharmacist by trade, but he enjoys this type of stuff, and we've learned along the way together. But we've also hired people on our team to help us make some of these decisions. And this is where it gets scary, because you're dealing with money and you're dealing with finances, and unfortunately as doctors, we're often taken advantage of when it comes to this stuff, because people know we don't know enough. So do the time to also teach yourself, read blogs. This is a good one, a basic one on NerdWallet about starting an LLC and a guide. There's tons of resources on the internet. You just have to be willing to look for them, spend time reading them, and to really understand what you're getting yourself into, because of course there's a lot of nitty-gritty when it comes to launching your own business that you don't want to mess up from the beginning. This is just something you can take a picture of if you're curious about software or apps or things to think about. And this can really apply to any business. It's not just for a subscription box. There's a lot of websites that will help you start e-commerce. So if you have an e-commerce idea, something you want to sell online, Shopify is a great place to start. They have really easy basic plans. They do take a percentage of your sales, and that's what we use on the back end. We use Klaviyo for email marketing to create our email campaigns. Asana is a project management system as you start to hire people onto your team. Organizing all of our files live on Google Drive, and we have a bunch of people on and off there. Accounting, you can use an app or software called Wave to keep track of your finances. We use Canva a lot for a lot of our graphics and design, and we schedule our social media posts on Loomly. So feel free to take a picture of this. This may not necessarily apply to your idea, but something to start thinking about if you're curious about, doing this on your own. Okay, a few other words of wisdom is to think about protecting yourself. And again, another area we really are not so great at in medicine is the logistical side of a business, including all the law that goes into it. So at Jeremy DocBox, we've been able to achieve our trademarks and protect our name. And we've also had people try to infringe on that too. So having a lawyer is actually pretty important. This may not be something you have to start with right away, but something to think about, because unfortunately, business is dirty and people will try to do you wrong, and you can't be naive about what's out there and what you need to potentially protect yourself from. But also as a business, you need to protect yourself from your own consumers by having very clear-cut policies. Your website needs to be up to a certain grade. You can't just throw something up on the internet and start selling things without thinking about the back end of this stuff. Shopify, which is the website partner we use, does have a lot of basic stuff to get you started on policies, but these are, again, other things for you to think about. Okay, and then get ready to fail, and fail a lot. I can't tell you how many times I've cried over things going wrong. We've been upset over failures, but ultimately the failures have led us to our successes, and it's been a part of the growth and learning process. People that you will hire that will disappoint you or that you'll have to let go, being over budget on a project. Unfortunately, with COVID, a lot of supply chain issues, including shipping delays. And at the end of the day, a customer won't understand that aspect of things. So being able to deliver is very important, obviously, both physically, but also as a company. So these are things to think about. Once we moved out of our house, a lot of our issues were in terms of fulfillment and scaling the business, and realizing that we can't just run it on our own, and we have to hire people to help us. So that we weren't spending our weekends packing boxes or fulfilling orders. Customer service is another big thing that we never learn about in medicine and entrepreneurship. And the worst of it is accepting feedback when people are unhappy or realizing that you could have done something better. But ultimately, this stuff is what helped us improve our business, improve the way things run, and think about how we can do things better. And of course, this wouldn't be an Islamic talk without resetting your intentions, because unfortunately, it's very easy to get caught up in all of it and then realize that your intentions are also changing. So at the end of the day, remember, especially as physicians, number one, you've taken an oath to do no harm. You've worked this hard to get this far in your career, and you don't want business moves to compromise your ethics, which is something that is a potential problem for us almost monthly. And that includes, companies who try to work with us and try to sell us products that we realized were not legit. brands that try to do unethical practices. There's a lot of messy stuff in medicine and in business, and you will face this whether you become an entrepreneur or not. But at the end of the day, it's always important to remind yourself that you've gone through this journey, you've worked this hard, you're taking all these steps to get to the next part of your training or your future specialty, and you don't want to compromise that for a business deal or ever in the sake of money. So, sometimes that may lead people to question, are we good business people? But I also remind myself that I care more about the career I've built as a dermatologist and all the time I've put to get this far in my career. And so, if that means this goes to the wayside, then that wouldn't matter to me as much. So just always be mindful of that and be careful of those practices, because as you grow, people will get hungry and they'll want a piece of your pie, and then they're also going to want to make you question your future, how you do things, and how you practice ethically or not. Some words of wisdom for you to think about. The first step is the hardest, and I know potentially a lot of you in the audience are sitting on things that you're thinking about, that you're curious about, or that you want to potentially do, and I would encourage you to just take the first step. And that was scary for me too, because at the end of the day, I knew I was putting my name on something, and that terrified me, because what if it went wrong? But you will fail, and that's okay. You're going to learn from it. And if you want to build a company, a successful one, you have to give up control. As a very type A person, and I'm sure many of you guys are, this has probably been my biggest thing that I've struggled with, because it's my baby and I don't want to give up control. But I also realize that in order to grow and to continue to succeed, we have to allow other people with expertise to step in and help. And so don't be hesitant to do that if it's really the next move. Networking is essential, and I was actually discussing this with Basil too. This actually applies to you guys as med students into your residency, matching into your future specialty, or potentially networking with an entrepreneur or somebody that you're looking to help you in your company. Networking is everything. It says so much when you're able to carry yourself in a conversation, when you're able to carry yourself eloquently, when you're able to back up your claims, and meeting the right people can really take you far. For us in our business, we've been able to connect with a lot of mentors who have built, grand businesses and are helping us on the back end of teaching us how to scale. So you're not going to know everything, and that's okay. More importantly than knowing everything is learning how to network, meet people, get out of your comfort zone, and start to connect with others who might be able to help you a little more than you think. And then negotiate your time. It's your biggest asset. So like I said, currently I am working full-time as a dermatologist, but that also includes admin time for myself to catch up on work and also run this business on the side. And when you're looking at contracts out of residency, I would very much so encourage you to think about how are you protecting your time, because more than worrying about your paycheck, your time to use to build something bigger is going to be much more important than your base salary. So just consider those things when you're looking at a contract and negotiating. Are you going to spend all your time working, or is there going to be time for you to do something outside of that traditional interest that you want to pursue? And a lot of times, that's where these great ideas and things happen, is in that off time. So I would encourage you to do that. So that's pretty much it. You can feel free to email me if you have any questions. It will take me a little bit of time to get back to you, but I'm also happy to answer any questions from the audience. Nobody wants to share their business idea. Yes?
What is your, first I want to start off by saying I think it's really cool that you're kind of dipping in both ends of the world in terms of helping people and marketing. What does your advertising look like? What is your mission statement, and where do you see yourself in 10 years?
So the question was, what does our advertising look like? What's our mission statement, and where do we see ourselves in 10 years? So actually, we dipped our foot into paid advertisements, and we found that that wasn't as authentic as actually utilizing influencer marketing, which a lot of you will probably fall prey to on social media. Having people actually getting our boxes in their hand, being able to use it and share it with their followers or people on social media. So a big part of Dermy Doc Box is that it was born out of my social media, Dermy Doctor, and realizing that I could harness a lot of that energy into this business. Because as I said, a lot of my DMs were filled with these types of questions, and I realized I could answer them efficiently and also give people access to something that they were wanting. So for example, you know, somebody watching an unboxing of a box, getting able to see what you're actually getting, and that's also helped us a lot with our success. In terms of our mission statement, we are basically striving to answer the chaos and confusion when it comes to buying or using skincare, especially for a lot of women. There is a ton of pressure to have certain looks or you know, achieve the skin that they want, and unfortunately that results in a lot of us, including myself before I became a dermatologist, spending a lot of time and money on products that may not necessarily make the cut. So back to that ethical issue that we talked about, a lot of what I do is saying no, because I don't want to compromise the success of the box by selling out to brands that I know are not effective. So, you know, it may not be a good business move, but at the end of the day, that keeps our subscribers happy because they trust my word, especially because I'm leading with my oath as a physician. And so I know it's my responsibility to give quality and effective skincare because that's what I'm promising. So I'm not doing it as a business person, but truly as a doctor. And where do we see ourselves in 10 years? I don't think we're gonna be the next big beauty box, but I do think we have created and carved out our own space because it's curated by a dermatologist. And so I would consider thinking about that for yourselves. How could you use your expertise that you're spending all this time, technically, and money to become? And how could you answer a question for society or make it better or easier for people to access care, for people to understand a little bit more about their health, and do it in a way, you know, that could reach a larger audience. Any other questions? Yes.
So in undergrad, I had like a startup that I tried to like go for. And my question is, we struggled between determining, did you patent or did you trade secret? What did you do for this?
So I applied for a trademark because I can't patent skincare that's not my own. And so this is where the success of the company came, is I'm not recreating, I'm not becoming just another skincare brand. You know, there's thousands on the market and every day that enter the market. So I'm utilizing the best of the best and putting it into a box. So I have a trademark on my name, Dermy Doctor, and also a pending trademark on Dermy Doc Box. But yes, it's very important to protect those ideas because somebody will come up right from under you and try to take them, which is actually what's kind of happening to us right now that we're dealing with. So if you have protection legally, then you don't have to worry about that, but that is a scary part of this.
Yeah, because we did like an internship and like a lot of the advisors were telling us like, you know, no matter how much money you put into like trade secret or patenting, someone out there, some big dog is gonna come and like.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's very difficult for someone who's doing a startup to promote your business.
Yes.
And keep pushing forward while there's that fear. So at what point do you just, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. And there were a lot of people who questioned what we were doing and how we were going to make it successful and if it could be a thing. But at the end of the day, I think a lot of it is honestly silencing that voice in your head that's telling you you can't, you're not big enough, you're not strong enough, you can't, you don't have the money to do this, and to just keep going. Because a lot of trademarking legal-wise is just establishing your credibility online. When did you first use your mark? When did you display your stuff on e-commerce? When did you start having traffic to your website? So it really is just about starting and establishing that, because although a big dog may try to come in, you will have that first use right to basically give back to them or give to your lawyers to say on your defense. So don't be afraid just because you're, the small fish in a big pond. You have to get started somewhere, and there will be people always who will question you or try to bring your business down, but it's a matter of, are you willing to fight for it, which you should.
So, thank you.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you for your talk. I have been following you on Instagram for a couple of years, so it's really nice to see you speak in person.
Thank you.
I just had a quick question about being a Muslim woman in business. I feel like I'm a dual degree student, so I'm getting my MD and MBA at my medical school in Texas, and I feel like in the MBA it's just such a different environment, being, especially a Muslim woman in business, being a woman alone in business, we're already part of the minority, the class is 30% women.
Yeah.
And oftentimes I feel like I'm the only hijabi or Muslim person in many of these spaces that kind of revolve around a very different culture that is so different from my own. And so I was just wondering if you could speak about your experience, how you overcome feeling othered in these spaces that traditionally
totally
don't welcome Muslim women, especially in a business setting, and how to overcome networking that often, in my experience, that's very little experience, is around drinking culture.
Totally.
Or, that sort of
thing. Well, first of all, both in business and in my specialty, I struggle a lot. When you go to a dermatology conference, you're like, oh gosh, I really stick out. And that's been something that I've always struggled with. I would be lying to say if I haven't thought about that, or if I just didn't wear hijab, I bet you I could do this or that. And that's always something I've struggled with. But at the end of the day, having strong faith and beliefs is also going to make people respect you, because you're going to stick out like a sore thumb, and that's a good thing, right? Because in the business world, I'm going to be very easy to pick out from the crowd because I look so different. So I'm using that to my advantage. And, a part of me always thought when starting this, should I not show my face? Should I just say this is a dermatologist curated box and not name it Dermy Doc Box? That was a big part of this. Should I just be kind of behind the scenes and not do these studio sessions where I'm photographing myself in the box clearly as a Muslim woman? But a lot of our subscribers are non-Muslims, and I think it's more so, again, solidifying yourself as an expert in your space and standing your ground, because a lot of people, again, ethically will look at you with trust too. So utilize your hijab, be proud of it, and don't compromise yourself for the people around you. At that conference Hassan and I attended, there was a lot of drinking culture that we didn't participate in, obviously, and people respected us for that, I think. You go in very clear-headed, and you know exactly what you want and what you need and who you need to network with, and you take what you need from those spaces and you walk away proudly. I would lie again if I said this wasn't a struggle I also deal with. But at the end of the day, I also put my faith that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to guide me, and He's going to make me stronger for these types of things that I face on a daily basis, and hopefully continue to let me hold my head up high and be proud of the fact that I'm in hijab doing what I do. So I hope that that's going to happen for you, and I'm so happy you're doing an MBA, because that's one little thing I actually regret I didn't pursue, because a lot of this business world is knowing that back-end logistical side that unfortunately we don't get in medicine. So arming yourself with a degree from the get-go will make you that much stronger.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Go back to the slide with one of the resources that you use.
The apps?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So thanks for your talk. I just wanted to go back to the point where you said, don't wait until you're attending or even later in life to sort of start your business or whatnot. But I know it takes money to start a business, and as a messenger right now, I have no money. So how would you suggest I know I'm assuming you were already a doctor when you started this and you had some means to sort of, start up this company. So when you're not a doctor or attending, how do you suggest going about doing this, and how much money do you need to do something like
That's
this?
a good question, yeah. So capital is helpful, but actually we haven't invested a ton of capital into our business. A lot of this has been turned around by sales. So I would argue that basically clarifying your mission statement, your plan, and having a clear, thought out way that you're going to pursue and fulfill these ideas is going to be helpful, because yes, your first month will be scary because you're right, you're making investments. We were charging our card, we were ordering all this skincare, all these boxes. It was scary. And a lot of me was like, oh God, I don't know if we should do this. I'm still early in my career. I just started as an attending. So I still had my loans and things to worry about. But having a solid idea and a solid plan to move forward is going to pay you more in dividends. So you have to be willing to take a little bit of a risk. The other thing I would argue is you do not need to necessarily pay for Facebook ads or a lot of these paid advertisements. We don't use Google, we don't use Facebook. We are marketing solely based off of word of mouth, my page. So do the work on the back end to build yourself or your brand up. Start your Instagram page or around the idea, start to get followers, use appropriate hashtags, participate in trends like Reels. There's organic ways on social media to build yourself before you even launch an idea. And that alone, having that network and audience of people, is already your customer base. So you don't have to worry about like just publishing a site out in the world and hoping that somebody stumbles upon it, because you'll already have an audience to share it with. So especially as a med student or as a resident, this is the time to potentially build on those ideas, refine your plan, really clarify which way you're moving forward, and have a huge launch part of your website and a launch campaign that is going to catapult you into actual sales. But a lot of taking the first step is clarifying what that launch campaign would look like, how you're going to build an email list and collect emails for people to actually come back and visit. But you're right, you can't just put something out there and hope that somebody stumbles upon it. So that's a big part of, deciding on that financial decision. But truly reflecting back, the things we paid on is to start our LLC, which in certain states can be a few $100s, to put some money into a business bank account to actually start it, to get it going, to pay for the back end of Shopify to run the website. And actually our photography, our editing, all of that was done by us. Literally created a photography station. Obviously now we have a photographer that helps us, but all of those things were truly DIY and using our own space in our own house, so we weren't paying for a warehouse. So as you expand and grow, you'll be able to hire people onto your team and make a bigger impact, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum. I know you mentioned that you work full-time as a dermatologist and you're a mom and now a business owner. So I was just wondering how much time goes into this business versus working, and how do you time manage all of it?
Yeah, so I don't do a very good job of time management, as you can see behind you. And a lot of that falls onto Hassan to help me out, and we do support each other, and that's why, again, picking a spouse that's going to be a hands-on person is extremely important, and that's always been something, that has been at the forefront for me. And Hassan and I had, dreams when we were getting to know each other, things we wanted out of life that we knew we needed a supportive spouse for. I supported him in his times when he was starting up things, and now it's his turn to do the same with me. But a lot of this, again, is negotiating your time. So as I said, when you're looking out of residency at a job, ask yourself, what are the hours I'm gonna work? People laugh as a dermatologist that I don't work a lot, but I would argue that most of the residents that shadow with me see why an 8 to 4, 8 to 5, or 9 to 4 job is extremely taxing, because I see around 30 to 40 patients a day. So I am jumping in between rooms doing procedures, and that's why in dermatology you can negotiate a little more of that time. But I would argue any specialty, you don't have to accept the hospital's basic contract. Ask more about, what does my admin time look like? That's a really good first question to ask. What is admin time for this position? And that should be paid, protected time for you to catch up on work and hopefully build something else. I also knew when negotiating my contract that this was already starting for me, and when I hired my lawyer to help me with my contract, I built in a clause that anything that I'd created from the DermDoctor brand was solely mine, which can happen with a hospital system, and something you should think about is the hospital can own proprietary rights to your ideas. So if you're signing off with a hospital system, be careful and look into those things. Thankfully, Dr. Hamzavi, his family, and the group has been extremely supportive of this, and I wouldn't be able to do it without his support. But that would be something I would be open and honest with an employer about, because it is important to protect that time.
إلا الله لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله ما لنا